Hi beloveds, I hope you're all doing well. Thanks for watching my channel, thanks for sitting down and preparing to watch another ridiculous ramble of mine. I wrote some notes a couple of days ago. I got bitten by the muse. Scarlet Moon recently called it bitten by the muse, which I love. I wrote on a piece of paper, "Are you ready for transformation?" They're the words that I wrote. And then I started writing all of these notes and stuff, and I was like, okay, this is meant to be a video, I should imagine. So here I am. So I suppose you can kind of gather that what I wrote was a list of things that I seem to think it's pertinent to consider if you want transformation, if you want change, if you feel that you're trying to break out of the chrysalis and you're like elbowing it, but you can't quite get free of it, and you want metamorphosis. These are some things that I think it's important to consider. I also feel like because of the high energy that was running through me when I wrote these notes, I feel like they're also kind of indicative of things that I would think it's important to hold with you every day, to know that you're setting the right vibration, that you're moving into the day with your pure intention, that you are taking the day by the horns, by the balls, you know, and you're making it your own. A little while ago I made a video about setting your intention in the morning and having that sacred time. I'll link that video for you below if you haven't seen it. And I suppose that this is kind of a part 2 of that idea, and I'm bringing that same energy to this video, so let's get started. Where is your agency right now? Where is your agency right fucking now? Because we spend entirely too much time thinking about where our agency was a week ago when we had that conversation and we should have said such and such a thing, or where our agency is going to be next week when everything's finally slotted into place and we can do what we came here to do, you know, or where our agency is going to be once that person that isn't doing what we want them to do right now finally does what we want them to do, and so we're waiting on somebody else, you know. We think about our agency with regard to past tense or future tense entirely more than we think about where it is right fucking now. And actually that's one of the biggest catalysts for positive change, and one of the biggest catalysts for long-term empowerment is just considering where your agency is in this moment and what the next correct action is in this moment. And it could be something really simple. You could be looking at a room that is, you know, full of clutter and just isn't organised how you want it, or it reminds you of a former time and that's not where you are anymore, or whatever. And maybe where your agency is right now in this moment is just to get up and start arranging things, start throwing things out. I'm talking about personal power here, right? So I'm talking about what it is that you can bring to the situation right now in this moment that is a productive channeling of your energy, a direction of your energy into something intentional and into something that is going to make you feel better, that is going to move the situation forward, that is going to be for the good of your mental and emotional and physical well-being. I always tell my clients and my friends, whoever the hell needs to hear it, right? I always say, break the goal down and then break it down again and then break it down again until you can actually see yourself doing it. Because I've been so depressed in my life, and I know what it's like to, I can't deny that I know what it's like, I do know what it's like to feel like you cannot get up, you can't get dressed, you can't leave the house, you can't open your mail, you can't deal with reality, you just can't. It's too much, it's too big, it's too overbearing and overwhelming and all-consuming, and you can't. And I can't pretend that I don't know what that's like. And so one of the key things that I think it's important to do is to take the goal that you have in mind and break it down, and then break it down again. And it's okay to break it down into these little parts. It doesn't have to be this all-encompassing task that, you know, you get a gold star for at the end and it's absolutely amazing and it's this huge feat. It can literally be putting the kettle on, or it can literally be answering somebody's text message, you know, that's asked you how you are, or reaching out to somebody via text message, or whatever it is that, you know, you're really struggling to do right now. If you have debt and you're just really, really struggling to accept it, even if you can't open the red letters, get them all together and put them on the table. Get them all together and put them on the table and just look at them, you know. And even if you can't open them, even if you're not ready for that, at least you've got them all together. It sets that intention. I'm ready to accept that I have debt and I'm ready to deal with it, you know. Ring somebody and ask them to be there for you, ask them to hold you accountable. You know, call somebody up that you trust and say, I've got my red letters on the table and I'm ready to get my shit together. I'm freaking out. When can you come over? Just anything like that, you know. And don't be angry with yourself that you didn't open them. Don't be angry with yourself for that. Just be totally proud of yourself and impressed with yourself that you accepted that you need to open them. And maybe that's where your agency is right now, and maybe it can't be anywhere else right now. Maybe that's the agency that you can bring to the situation. And you know what? That's fucking amazing. Do that. Do that. And then the next step is for the next day. I dare you to defy your story. I think this is really important. I think it's really important to be honest about what your story is and how many times a day you tell yourself that same story, you know, and how many times you feed yourself that same story and how that story is holding you back. You might be at a place in your life right now where you're not ready to hear this part of the advice, like it's not going to go in for you, and that's okay, because it's a process and it takes a little while to get to this point on the process. And for a long time you're often too steeped in apathy and cynicism, and you just can't see how anything could be different, so it's difficult to absorb this part of the information. But I'm going to say it anyway for those of you who are ready to hear it and who need it in this moment. A lot of the time the story hinges on when everything started to go wrong for you. You know, what was that moment where everything started to unravel and everything started to come apart and everything started to go bad? The moment of no return, the moment where everything like kind of fell out of your control or fell spectacularly to pieces. And you fixate on that moment, and that moment becomes the defining point in your narrative. But why should it be? Why is it, and why should it be? And that's what I want you to start questioning if you possibly can at this point. Why is that the defining point in your narrative? Why should it be? And why can't you look at that point in your narrative as the point where you started to emerge, you know, as the opportunity for your whole perspective to shift on its axis? Because quite often, and this is where it comes to the crux, post-traumatic growth is available to you. Whatever it is that smashed your world to pieces is the very thing that could help you to evolve beyond all imagining. Learn from this, learn from all of this, learn from it, take from it, drink from it. It's done me so much good, and I'm sure it's done so many of you so much good too, because it really does convey whatever it is that's going on internally, as within, so without. So drink it in, drink it all in, wherever you are in the world, whatever you're looking at outside your window, drink it the fuck in. It's all nature. Don't let anyone tell you any fucking different. Not one single part of it is divorced from the all. It's all a cosmos, every last particle, every fucking atom. Okay, I have so much more to talk about on this topic, and I really want to convey to you what I wrote down and kind of give it to you in one thing. But the wind is as divine as it is, as holy as it is, as majestic as it is, and as much as I feel it's singing to what's really going on in my heart right now that I'm trying to give to you, I'm not sure my camera can handle it. So I'm going to have to walk back to my homestead, and I'll meet up with you there immediately because I've got editing software, so I'll literally be with you in a second. Let's do this now. Change. Post-traumatic growth is something that I'm really big on and interested in. I love hearing about people's stories that I would consider to be stories of post-traumatic growth, whether they know it or not. I really love thinking about the potential that exists in the midst of pain, and how pain is a doorway, a gateway to the next phase. And there are so many people out there who have chosen to shape their narrative so that the most difficult thing that ever occurred to them is also the most glorious thing that ever occurred to them. And this is not to be trite, and this is not to say that they didn't go through pain. It's not about that. It's about recognising how you can take that and you can shape it and you can decide what it means for your story as a human being. And that, to me, is one of the most inspiring things about life and about the nature of humanity, and it's why I do what I do. It's why I do what I do for a living. It's why I do what I do for a passion. You know, it's a large part of why I read tarot and why I became a spiritual counsellor and all of that stuff. And it informs a lot of what I do with my life and how I view life. And so I really think it's important to impart this message wherever possible, that post-traumatic growth is possible, that it exists, that it is a real thing, you know. And I've spoken to quite a few people, like in the comments section underneath my videos and in emails and stuff, about the fact that there was never any real understanding of the fact that post-traumatic growth existed, or that people spoke about one's ability to grow as a result of pain in those terms until they heard me say the term post-traumatic growth, and then it made them think about things in a new way. So I really urge you to think about what it is that you're hinging your narrative on. You know, what is your tower moment, you know, like the tower in tarot, the moment that it all came tumbling down, and how can you arrange the narrative differently around that? Because, you know, sometimes our lives do hinge on difficulty. Sometimes difficulty did change everything, and there's no point in trying to rewrite your personal history, and that's not what I'm asking you to do. You know, be honest about what has hurt, be honest about what has broken your heart, but also be honest about the agency that you have on that. You know, if you want to decide that your life hinges on that thing, if you want to be honest with yourself about the fact that that thing affected you deeply, that event, that relationship, that disappointment, that attack, if you want to be honest with yourself about the fact that it changed your life, then at least arrange the story around it in such a way that it gives you agency, that it gives you hope, that it offers you a spectrum of possibility, because there is one there, you know, and there quite often is on the other side of pain. Pain is a doorway. Pain can be a skeleton key to illumination. Who are your real life heroes? That's something that I think is really important to ask yourself, and you can get so much inspiration from people around you in your life, from heroes beyond your life, you know, that you've read about from history, or that you're kind of watching doing kick-ass things in this lifetime. I really feel like I take a lot of courage and I take a lot of inspiration from my real life heroes, you know. And it can be in terms of doing the smallest thing. Like, if I wake up in the morning and I know that it's one of my running days, and I know that I'm supposed to be getting up and like running a couple of laps around the cricket green or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I could just lie here and not do that and scroll through Instagram, I can just suddenly switch into this mode where I'm thinking about Bree Newsom climbing to the top of that flagpole and just taking down the Confederate flag and then coming down and preparing to be arrested. And I think to myself, honey, if Bree can do that, you can do 2 laps. I just read a story the other day in the paper about this girl who was kidnapped by Boko Haram, and she was forced to marry a Boko Haram soldier, and she was repeatedly raped. She's now pregnant with his child. She escaped. She saw her moment. She had a really, really mad experience. You know, she saw people's throats cut in front of her and all kinds of shit. And she escaped. She saw her moment and she got the fuck out, and she ran as hard as she could. And you know what she did before she actually left? She went over to her husband's phone and she took the SIM card. She stole the SIM card out of his phone before she made a run for it, so she could show the international press what was on that SIM card. And what was on that SIM card was all kinds of atrocities and crazy things happening. And that to me is like, I read that and I was just like, the bravery, the courage, the foresight, the conviction that it took for her to do that. Real life hero, like, you know, if she can do that, I can do anything. It's just insane. It's insane how much we have, how much privilege we have, how much opportunity we have, how much beauty there is, you know, in the lives of pretty much anybody that can be sitting at a laptop right now watching this. It's crazy that, you know, we don't stop to think about that enough. We don't check in with that enough. And I really think that that has changed my life. Doing that has given me a massive amount of perspective. And so when I really feel apathetic and when I feel like I can't do what I'm setting out to do, I think of real life heroes. I think of them and I hold that energy, that courage in my heart, and that is a form of magic. That is a form of magic with a K, to do that, to extract that energy, that passion, that conviction, that courage, and to lay it down in the core of me and to use it. Like, that is magic. That is a magical act, and you can do that. You can do that, and it doesn't diminish anyone else, and it doesn't diminish anything else, and the world is not smaller because you've done that. The universe expands every time you take strength and courage from somebody else. So I urge you to do that today. Who are your real life heroes, you know? Take example from them. Take example from them, and let them show you how to live with the courage of your convictions. Okay, the next point that I want to convey is, when did you last review what you wrote down? Because this is something that for me is becoming increasingly important as I get older, and as I'm going through my Saturn return, I'm starting to realise that that's the missing link for a lot of people. There's a lot of literature and a lot of advice and a lot of experts saying, you know, that writing it down is what makes it real, that things are not real until they're written down, that writing it down is the linchpin, writing it down is the difference between honouring it and not honouring it. And actually, you know, I think it's becoming increasingly clear for a lot of people that that isn't really the linchpin. The linchpin is regularly reviewing what you've written down, checking in with what's being done and what's not being done, what you feel differently about, you know, and what you need to change or what you need to kind of reassess from the new place. And there's no kind of, you have to become your own alarm clock for that kind of thing. Like, I use the Leonie Dawson workbook, I'm using it this year, I made a video about it, I'll link that below as well for anybody who's considering potentially trying a different way of organising your goals and your time in 2016. Check out my Leonie Dawson workbook review if that's something that you are interested in. I would recommend it for women, it's not really that inclusive for men. So anyways, so yeah, I'm using that at the moment, and it doesn't come with an alarm clock, you know what I mean? You have to sit down and do your reviews at the end of the month, and if you want to review more regularly, then you need to put those dates in your diary. You need to be looking ahead and deciding, okay, I'm going to do a review this week of what I've planned for the month, or I'm going to do a review this week of what I planned for the previous 6 days, and I'm going to check in with, you know, what's been done, what's not been done, how I feel about things, what I could have done differently, how I could have organised my time more productively, etc, etc, and so on and so forth. You've really got to take ownership of that, and you've got to decide that that is going to be part of what you're going to do. And writing stuff down and getting clear about what it is you want to achieve is so holy, and I would never underestimate or downplay that. But reviewing your progress, regularly checking in with it, and being that alarm bell and giving that alarm bell to your soul is a big part of it. And without that, I don't know what you're doing. Without that, you're just writing a load of notes and then just leaving them somewhere and forgetting about them, right? I know that there's a few people who watch my channel who also love the Mighty Boosh as much as I do, so for those among you, let me just say that my next piece of advice goes like this: set fire to a posh hammer to make it official. And by that I mean, do a ritual. Do a fucking ritual. I know I say it over and over again, and I know it's like this, I know I'm like a broken ritual record, and I do get that, but I just can't, you know, express the importance of it anymore, and it's been so instrumental in my life. And remember, rituals can be as simplistic or as ostentatious as you want them to be. It's a spectrum, and a lot of people exist in different places on that spectrum, and that is absolutely fine. It's important to honour what you think ritual is and what it means for you. But you know, if you look at the amount of rituals that we have in our ordinary lives, the habits that we form, you know, the rituals in the way we talk to each other, anniversaries, birthdays, all that kind of stuff, like blowing the candles out on the cake, and you know, the rituals that we go through at weddings and all that kind of shizzle. You know, rituals are still very much a part of our society, but I think they could really stand to be a much greater part of our society, more intrinsic to our society. And no matter what one's views are on God and life and death and the universe and everything, the importance of ritual should never be struck down, and it shouldn't be undermined, because it really allows you to take what is in the psyche, what is inward, what is in the unconscious, or what is just rising into consciousness, and actually make it real, make it tangible, realise it, look at it, and see it through fresh eyes, and actually witness yourself unfurling and unfolding and coming to realisation. And so to me, it's just really important, and maybe I'll do a video about the importance of ritual and why it's so intrinsic to the behaviour of mankind, and you know, why I think it's so important to advise ritual as a kind of way to process what's going on, to make commitments, to release commitments, to grieve, to send an invitation to the cosmos for the next thing, you know, all of that stuff. I think it's important for all of that stuff, and maybe I will make a video about it. But yeah, set fire to a posh hammer to make it official. Do what you got to do to make it official. And if that's as simple as lighting a candle and saying a prayer, or stating an affirmation in front of the mirror, or, you know, literally dressing up in all of your garb and getting all of your tools and having like a 90-minute long ceremony with like chants and, you know, whatever you want to do, however you tend to set fire to a posh hammer to make it official, you know, go your own way, do what you want to do with it. But I would recommend doing it because it really just enlivens whatever it is that you set your mind to, and it makes it real. Okay, that's all. I'm going to leave a link below to a mid-year check-in blog post that I've done, which is basically just 100 journal prompts, 100 questions to help you to contemplate, to reflect, to reassess, to think about things you may not have thought about. So if you haven't checked that out, check it out below. I wrote it on the summer solstice, published it on the summer solstice. You don't have to use the journal prompts as journal prompts. You can just sit there and kind of read through them and reflect. However you want to do it, whatever feels right for you. If you want to book me for a reading or a session, I will leave the link below to the shop as always. If you find that the shop is closed and it says that I'm fully booked, don't panic. I'm just rounding off a few things and getting a few things sent out, and then I'll be open again and I will be at your service. Thank you very much for spending this time with me. It has been glorious, it has been momentous, I have loved it, and I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I know that I'm going to have a wonderful day too, especially after this. Very, very, very much love. Blessed be.